Hello and welcome to Season 6 of Business Mentorship, Keepin' It Real, introducing corporate leaders who have taken the leap to business owner and celebrate their great idea in our guest blog, found on shareyourstories.online. Our guest joins us from Boston, Massachusetts. Becky Jackson Curran is a disability inclusion advocate, speaker, and media consultant. She has delivered over 600 talks on 3 continents, including 2 TEDx, shifting perspective on disability. Let's hear how Becky invites everyone to join the journey toward acceptance and belonging through our own identity. It is my pleasure to introduce everyone to Becky.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You know, it's such a pleasure to wrap up our season with your story, Becky, because one of the things that I read in your guest blog was that you had spent some time in Hollywood. So tell us about that part of your journey.
I am a person with dwarfism, meaning that I am one of very few people with this diagnosis across the globe. If you slice it down, it's about 65,000 people in the United States, 1.5 million worldwide. That's still a very small portion of the world population. And the reason I bring that up is because the media is the place where everyone goes to consume information.
Right.
And if there are negative portrayals of people with dwarfism in the media, everyone assumes that every single person with dwarfism is like that person, whether it's a positive or negative portrayal.
Right.
Early in my career, I thought the entertainment industry has a lot of influence. How do I find a way to work behind the scenes, get the experience, and impact change? If there is going to be someone with dwarfism included in a plot of a TV show or movie, how do we make it a positive portrayal and show that they're a human being rather than a prop?
Right. Right. That's so true because, you know, and here we are at this time of year when everyone's snuggling in with, you know, movies and videos and podcasts and all of that sort of thing. Now, you know, clearly you're talking about making a positive change in the world and changing everybody's attitude. If you had to say to me today and share with our viewing and listening audience, one of the things that you feel helps to flip that switch and increase people's awareness, what would it be?
Ask questions, don't make assumptions. I think a lot of us travel through the world just assuming that we can't do something or that we can't interact with someone who looks different from us.
Right.
If you start to ask questions and dig in deeper, you'll realize everyone in this world has a lot more in common than different. And I think the holidays bring up a lot of feelings, especially those who are experiencing grief, maybe lost someone around this time of year in the past, or just experiencing grief, missing those people. What we also have to understand is we all end up dying someday. And if we don't find a way to be kind and support each other, we're all still going to have that same end result.
You know, it's so funny because I say to everybody, we're all so different and yet the same, right? If there's one thing I've learned from interviewing as many amazing guests as yourself, and sharing over 500 stories on 5 continents, is that we all experience the same challenges. You know, we all want the same things. We just may experience them at different stages and ages in life, right?
I've had people come up to me often where they say, I had this thing happen to me. It's not as bad as what's happened to you. I know you've gone through a lot. But I try to stop them and say, a challenge is a challenge. And we're all equipped to deal with challenges differently. And I
Right.
don't want you to feel bad for me. I want you to give me a chance to participate, even if I've faced all these challenges. So let's kind of find an equalizer of we both experienced a challenge and understand that a challenge is a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. Give our viewing and listening audience a little bit of an indication about speaking on 3 continents because, you know, lots of small business owners feel that one of the ways to expand their influence and reach is to get up on the stage. And you and I both know that's not an easy thing to do. I mean, everyone experiences stage fright a little bit differently, but give us some sort of a background. What 3 continents have you spoke on?
So I have spoken virtually in Europe, and then I've spoken in person in Africa and Kenya, and then around the United States and virtually in Canada and Mexico. So I've conquered North America
Yeah,
for
for
the most
sure.
part.
Yeah, for sure.
But I would say the number one fear above death is public speaking. People are
Yeah,
afraid to do public speaking. So
yeah,
I started my journey by sharing my story online through a blog and Facebook and Twitter and now called X. And I continue to share my story with hopes that it helps others, new parents of people with dwarfism. And whenever someone asks me to come speak somewhere, I say absolutely. And of course, you start, and maybe it doesn't come with compensation, but you could maybe ask people to record and then you could use that to pitch your next speech. But it was on Twitter where someone who was running an event for a Little People organization that was launching in Kenya reached out to me and asked if I could come speak at their opening event. And this was going to be over American Thanksgiving in 2013. And I was between work and I thought this is a great opportunity for me to spread my reach and influence an audience of people in another country. And even though I was unsure of how the whole trip would go and it didn't get confirmed till 24 hours before, I felt that it was my calling to go because I had received a message from someone who said, I wish I had the confidence that you had. And I wanted to figure out how to deliver it on a platter and give it to everyone.
yeah,
And I truly think a lot of that confidence piece has to do with the way you're raised. If your family supports you and your vision and your goals and who you are as a human and believes in you, that will help you feel better about believing in yourself and spreading your wings. And of course, my parents were scared that I was going across the world to Kenya to speak. But full circle, I now have a care team. I'm still recovering from spine surgery a few years ago, and there are people from Kenya. So I have that nice connection. And I
yeah,
think
great.
the overall message is don't be afraid to spread your wings and go where there could be more opportunities. And even if it's those unpaid speeches, eventually they can lead to more opportunities. So what I think is every time I'm able to share my story, it helps me improve to share to the next audience, to the next audience. So if you really want to take this seriously, you have to spread your wings. And if you're afraid to get on stage or eager to get on stage, make yourself easy to find online.
Right. So that's so true. What do you do for stage fright? I mean, do you get butterflies? Like, do you, some people meditate, other people have some sort of a mantra that they say. Is there something that you do on a regular basis when you're speaking?
Sometimes when I'm standing on stage before I start, I get like a rush through my body and it's almost like I'm just jumping off the cliff. I gotta go. I think about the need and the importance of the audience hearing my message and me building awareness because in most cases, I am the first person with dwarfism that someone is in a room with. And
Right.
it's my responsibility. It's a big responsibility and weight on my shoulders to influence them in a positive way. And I feel that that is really important and that outweighs the fear.
Right.
But I think it's if any outside factors get in the way and you're worried and your head's spinning and you're not able to focus, uh, that then is unfair to the audience.
Right. Right.
So it's just trying to really stay focused. And the secret for me too is I don't love a script because I then get nervous trying to remember everything that I wrote. So I
Right.
really take pride in speaking from the heart and understanding what the audience is looking for, but
Mhm.
integrating parts of my story into that advice that I'm looking to give them based on what they're looking for.
Right. Now, is there a difference between speaking online through the thumbnail and speaking in a live audience in terms of your preparation? And you've mentioned that you don't use notes and you speak from the heart. Clearly, you're engaging in the same type of messaging. So it's easy to convey those points of interest. But in terms of preparation, do you do different things when you're online than when you're in person?
I think online it's easier to have notes on in the background just in
Yeah.
case. Uh,
Yeah.
I actually delivered two TEDx talks, and one was on stage, and I did have to have a speech because TEDx requires you to have a whole format. But the second one, I was able to film at home during the pandemic, and I
Wow.
used a teleprompter app. So I had my script, and I was a lot more confident about delivering it because I had everything right in front of me.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
would say that maybe I'm more likely to use notes in those virtual presentations.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't prepare for the live ones. I just feel that anything that can prevent me from being present, uh, I want to avoid because
Mhm.
I can give the best speech if I'm able to bring my whole self there.
For
But
sure.
and I much prefer the in-person. The pandemic was really hard, but it was worth still doing it to keep practicing and doing as much as I
Sure.
could. But the in-person is just a whole different experience.
Yeah, you get to engage with the audience a little more in person, right? You get to make eye contact with people that you don't necessarily get to do in the virtual stage, right?
And I think even just how I was saying with the perceptions in the media, and people can see that I'm a real person.
Right.
Behind the screen, I could
Yeah.
maybe hide parts of my features.
Yeah, for sure. Now, as a media consultant, what is it that you do to help the folks that you're serving in terms of how to increase their visibility?
I think it's really important to continue to change perceptions of how people with disabilities are portrayed. I have built a strong relationship with the Gina Davis Institute, and they recently did some research, and they were able to find that 3.9% of roles in Hollywood describe disability. But of those 3.9%, only about 20% are played by actual people living with those described disabilities. So
Oh,
people with
wow.
disabilities aren't even able to portray themselves. And then
Right,
that becomes an issue because if they don't portray themselves, then other people are portraying them based on how they perceive the population.
right, right. So it's not actually experiential, it's more research driven.
Exactly.
Right.
So even though I am many years out of working specifically in Hollywood, there's still a lot of work to be done. So I like to share my lived experience. Say if a project is portraying someone with dwarfism, let's make sure that it's an accurate portrayal. So I like being a resource, and those are relationships that I built back in the day, but I know that that's not the only thing that I can focus on, especially looking at those numbers. It's not still not a huge priority for Hollywood. They're really focused on box office numbers,
Yeah, for sure.
but I want to continue to push content out there that positively portrays people with disabilities, even if it's just news stories that show people doing amazing things that one may seem are impossible. I was
Right.
at an event once, and a young boy who is deaf was hearing a story about a deaf adult, someone who could be a role model for him. And his response was, I didn't know that deaf people could be adults. So if people don't see it, they don't believe that that's possible.
Possible. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that falls into even just my passion for getting people working more. Like when I first tried to get into Hollywood, it wasn't just an easy transition. I sent out 1,000 resumes, went on 100 interviews over the course of 4 months. Every time I walked in the door, people judged me on my appearance, and it's based on probably what they saw in the media. And
Yeah.
then that also influences hiring decisions and how each of our populations are portrayed, where, as I was saying earlier, we all don't live forever.
Mhm.
So we should
For
find a
sure.
way to find deeper connections.
Now, in terms of content marketing, because you've mentioned that, the visibility starts by being available, and obviously being available means that we need to be visible on social media. Do you do your own content marketing, or do you engage a public relations firm that can help you sort of zhuzh up some of those posts that you're doing? Because content really is the most difficult thing to do, right?
I don't think I've mastered like the consistency of content. I kind of post when it makes sense for me, and
Right.
I get a lot of following, especially on LinkedIn. I think that environment, people are really respectful and supportive, even when I kind of combine work and lived experience, and
Mhm.
I show my vulnerability because it's a professional audience where CEOs or executives of large corporations and executive assistants are all seeing the content and finding a way to relate. Uh,
Sure.
but I try to keep it consistent the most on Instagram, kind of showing
Mhm.
me living my life because I know I have a lot of followers who are parents of people with dwarfism. Sometimes it even impacts whether someone decides to keep their child when they get the diagnosis. They want to see positive representation. So I
Sure.
try to be that resource. So
Mhm.
as far as like business strategy, I will be honest that I don't think I've fully mastered that yet, and I think it's a lot of trial and error, but I know that I have a following, even if it's just that deep human connection. And I think I would say post more if you think it can reach the audience that you're looking to reach,
Your
but
target market.
don't just post to post if it feels mundane. And
Yeah.
even I helped out when I left Hollywood and came back to the East Coast for a bit to rebuild and start my speaking. I helped out this social media company and they were working with a boutique, and the boutique did not have an online shop, but they were still committed to buying followers on Facebook. And I just thought it was strange because there was nowhere for those followers around the world to
To
go if
go.
there
Yeah.
wasn't the online shop. It would make sense if there was the online shop.
Mhm.
I rather have, I've always believed that organic followers, it's quality, not quantity.
Sure.
I do pay for the premium subscription for LinkedIn just so I can
Mhm.
have access to more tools and ways to connect. But
Sure.
I try not to put in more money when it comes to even like advertising on Facebook and others, unless I had a specific online store or something to offer. I don't think it makes sense.
It makes value. Yeah. Well, I can share with you that the thumbnail picture that we post, a few days before our discussion in terms of our interview has had over 700 views on
Wow.
Instagram. And, our average is, we average anywhere between 300 and 500. So I will assume that, and you know how those things kind of creep up over, the
Yeah.
next few days. So I'm assuming that we're going to see over 1,000 views on the Instagram thumbnail. So that's
Yes.
really nice because
I like helping you
well,
too.
that's just, I was just going to say, because the way that works the best is when we collaborate together, right? When I tag you as a collaborator and you share that with your audience, it also adds to the credibility factor of what you're trying to accomplish. That we're helping each other increase visibility, not just in a static way, but for the whole community of people who are participating. And I think that's really an important factor that people need to remember when they're sharing, that where you share and how you share is just as important as what you share,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. And I think just at the end of the day, nobody can take our stories away. And that's why I was so passionate about collaborating with you because we all need to share our stories. Just if someone told me tomorrow they want to be a speaker and be in the same space that I'm in, I would say go for it. We
Yeah.
need more voices regardless because we're all going to bring our own unique perspective. I was actually having a conversation with one of my caregivers and I said, we're going to do things differently in the morning and night than maybe someone else would. And I'm going to adjust. We need to meet each other where we're at and
Right.
still get to the end goal of getting ready, but it may look a little different. And you have to be willing to adapt.
And also move outside your comfort zone, right? Because we all have those parameters and we all like to stay safe and feel comfy. But sometimes the best growth opportunities happens when we push ourselves outside the comfort zone, right?
And I'm open about saying that I hate change. It scares the heck out of me. But once it happens, I'm fine.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that the truth?
Yes.
Now, one of the things that we do in our guest blog is we ask folks to share 3 words of advice. So I would like you to share with our viewing and listening audience, wrap up our conversation today with a little explanation as to why your 3 words are so important to you and your story. And they are: don't stop believing.
I'm not the best singer, but I do love the Journey song, Don't Stop Believin'. And I think it also aligns with my lived experience of if something goes wrong, I can't just give up and think that things will never get better. I
Right.
need to continue to believe, turn every no that someone tells me into a challenge and turn it into a yes in my own way, whatever it may work. And as we say, sometimes we have to adapt and be willing to move around. But I think the biggest thing is we need to believe in ourselves
Mhm.
before others can help us believe. But it continues to resonate and the song never gets old for me because I really think it's important to believe that people are good people until maybe they prove that they're not, but it doesn't mean that they're not a good person for someone else.
Right.
Even if I've had like relationships that may end, it doesn't mean, oh, like,
Not the end of the
yeah,
world, right?
exactly.
That's so
It
true.
can be stressful in the moment,
Yes.
if we still have the ability to each find our own paths and
Yeah.
find happiness elsewhere. And I think that's the hardest thing. We need to continue to believe in each other and believe in what's possible
Mhm. That's so
because we
true.
don't want people to feel stuck because we're just here for a short time. And
That's
I learned it the hardest way possible by losing my infant son 3 years ago to an accident at the hospital. And it made sure that I do not take life for granted. And of
right.
course, I look forward to reuniting with him someday, but I'm in no rush to do that because I have a lot to accomplish here on Earth.
Well, I really want to thank you for spending some time with us today, Becky. I mean, the fact that you've been open and honest with your journey is a wonderful way to kind of wrap up our season on Keeping It Real. And we certainly send you lots of peace, love, and prosperity for 2026. And I really want to thank you for joining us for this edition of Keeping It Real.
And thanks for having me.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And to our viewing and listening audience, thank you for joining us today for this edition of Keeping It Real, introducing you to the person behind the logo. If you'd like to connect with our guest, you're going to find Becky's contact information in the description portion below. I'm Trish Tonai, author, artist, and the founder and host for the series. And we invite you to share your business story. Just visit our website at shareyourstory.online and subscribe to our channel, Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real. Becky and I would like to thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to meeting you next time when we share another great idea.